What if your world of concrete and familiar footsteps was instantly replaced by a jungle of alien scale, where every shadow holds a predator the size of a bus? What if survival meant trusting instincts honed on trash cans against beasts that ruled the earth for 100 million years? This is the nightmare and the odyssey of Faísca, the quick-witted stray. His life was a perpetual search, a sniff for a fallen crumb, a dash across a busy intersection. But one unusually quiet afternoon, while taking shelter from a sudden, bizarre green rainstorm beneath a massive old clock tower, a strange energy spike hit. A fissure, a momentary tear in the fabric of time opened above him. In one violent moment, the scent of exhaust and damp pavement was ripped away. The world went silent, then exploded with noise. A chorus of alien screeches, the deafening thump-thump of colossal footfalls, and the heavy, humid air of a world drenched in primeval mist. Faísca had been hurled back, not to the time of cavemen, but to the deep Late Cretaceous period. He landed hard in a swamp, the mud thick and smelling of decay and sulfur. Before he could even shake the water from his caramel coat, a shadow fell over him, a shadow that blocked out the sun. A feathered creature, taller than any building he had ever seen, lifted its massive head and let out a chilling, guttural roar. A Tyrannosaurus Rex. This was not a chase, it was an execution. Faísca ran, driven by pure terror. His city agility, trained to dodge fast-moving vehicles, allowed him to zigzag through the thick mangroves. The T-Rex, though mighty, was slowed by the deep marsh. Faísca escaped, but the moment defined his new reality. He was not at the top of the food chain anymore. Days turned into a desperate blur. Faísca lived on the razor's edge, constantly moving, surviving on insects, eggs stolen from ground nests, and his extraordinary ability to read the wind. He learned the rhythm of the Cretaceous jungle, the lull at midday, the frantic feeding frenzy at dawn. He learned that the smallest noises could attract the biggest dangers. His greatest discovery was not food, but fire. A high-altitude lightning strike had ignited a thick, resinous tree atop a plateau. It was a beacon, a dangerous signal in the perpetual gloom. But to Faísca, the scent of smoke meant safety. It meant a territory that something feared. Faísca finally reached the plateau. The fire, now a contained, slow burn, was guarded by a creature unlike any he had seen, the Utahraptor, a dominant Utahraptor named Velo. Velo was magnificent, sleek, covered in charcoal gray feathers, with eyes of intense gold and a brain terrifyingly intelligent. Velo was not just a hunter. Velo was a strategist. Velo watched the strange, small anomaly, the hairless mammal thing, from a distance. Velo's pack, the Shadow Clan, were confused. They wanted to kill it. Velo, however, was fascinated. The small creature did not act like prey. It moved silently, avoided the clearest trails, and seemed to anticipate danger moments before it arrived. For a week, Faísca survived on the scraps Velo's clan discarded, always keeping an immense distance. One morning, a larger predator, a slow, armored ankylosaurus, passed by, oblivious. Faísca, following a piney scent trail, found a hidden nest of its freshly laid eggs. He knew he couldn't take them all, but he needed just one. As he tried to drag one away, the Shadow Clan burst from the foliage. It was a calculated trap. Faísca, caught, knew his end was near. He braced for the sharp claws, but Velo roared, not at the dog, but at the clan. Velo, in a shocking move,
drove his pack away. Why? Velo hadn't suddenly found mercy. Velo had noticed Faísca's reaction to the Ankylosaurus. Faísca had not fled when the giant creature passed. He had hunkered down, sensing it was too powerful, too armored. He displayed a sophisticated level of risk assessment that Velo had never seen in a small mammal. Velo realized this creature could be a tool. Velo allowed Faísca to take the single egg, a silent truce. Velo observed. Faísca, with his vastly superior sense of smell and hearing, products of millions of years of mammalian evolution, could detect threats long before the massive, visually reliant raptors. The truce was tested almost immediately. A torrential downpour turned the plateau into a death trap. A landslide blocked the Shadow Clan's main hunting path, forcing them down towards the murky river, a territory dominated by the fierce, crocodile-like Sarcosuchus. The clan was desperate. Velo led the pack to the riverbank, ready for a dangerous but necessary hunt. Faísca stood at the edge, whining, his nose twitching frantically. He could smell not just the river, but the low sulfurous methane bubbles rising, a clear sign of a massive, submerged creature. He ran up to Velo and in a desperate, frantic pantomime, pawed at the air above the water, then ran back to the higher ground. Velo's golden eyes narrowed. He hesitated. It was an impossible choice: trust the strange creature or risk the lives of the pack. Just as Velo was about to descend, a section of the bank exploded. A giant Sarcosuchus, its mouth full of razor teeth, erupted from the water where the pack would have stood. The sheer size of the beast terrified the Shadow Clan. Faísca's warning had saved them. From that day forward, Faísca was named Scent Runner by Velo, the one who smells the shadow. He wasn't a pet, he was a strategic asset, a living alarm system. Faísca now hunted with the raptors, a tiny, agile vanguard. He used his small size to flush out smaller prey from burrows, relying on the speed of the raptors to make the kill. The cooperation was breathtaking. Faísca's agility, combined with Velo's planning and the pack's raw power, created an unstoppable hunting machine. The Shadow Clan, guided by Scent Runner, thrived. Their greatest strength became their greatest challenge. Their success drew the attention of another dominant pack, the Bone Breakers, a larger, older, and more vicious group of Dromaeosaurus raptors led by the scarred, brutal elder Scar. Scar viewed Velo's collaboration with the hairless food as a weakness, a betrayal of predatory purity. The confrontation came at the base of the massive Fire Tree Plateau. The Bonebreakers ambushed Velo's clan, seeking to take their territory and eliminate the strange new alliance. The battle was brutal, a whirlwind of claws, beaks, and feathers. Faísca, tiny but fiercely loyal to Velo, found himself in the middle. His role was not to fight, but to distract and disorient. He weaved between the massive legs, his sharp barks and sudden movements breaking the Bonebreaker's focus, forcing momentary hesitation that Velo's raptors capitalized on.
During the chaos, Scar locked eyes with Faísca. For Scar, the dog was the symbol of Velo's weakness. Scar charged, his sickle claw raised. Faísca didn't run. He stood his ground, barking relentlessly. Just as the claw descended, Faísca executed a flawless, low-altitude dodge learned from avoiding bicycles and speeding cars. He survived, but the sickle claw sliced open the skin of his flank. Velo saw the attack. He saw Scent Runner bleeding, but still barking, still defying the larger raptor. In a final desperate leap, Velo engaged Scar in a duel, driven by a fury that was part territorial defense, and now part protection. Velo defeated Scar, sending the Bonebreakers scattering. The Shadow Clan had won, but the cost was high. Velo stood over the whimpering, bleeding Faísca. The Shadow Clan watched. They expected the Alpha to finally consume the weakened food to assert the natural order. But Velo nudged Faísca gently with his snout, a gesture of respect and protection. He then did something extraordinary. He signaled his pack to bring specific leaves from a nearby plant, leaves Faísca had instinctively avoided because they were toxic, but Velo knew had healing properties. The raptors applied the poultice, a crude but tender dressing. Faísca, the modern stray, was being cared for by a pack of apex prehistoric predators. The moment defined their bond, not master and pet, but comrades forged in war. Days later, Faísca's wound was healing. The tension in the world, however, was not. A shadow was beginning to fall over the sky, thicker than any storm. The air grew still, heavy, and strangely cold. The jungle animals began to move frantically, a collective, silent panic. Velo was agitated. He and Faísca stood together on the high plateau, watching the horizon. Faísca, with his modern intuition, knew this dread. He recognized the smell of the air, the eerie light. It was the world collapsing, an event of extinction. Then Velo did the unthinkable. He roared at his entire pack, driving them down the mountain into the safety of the deepest canyon, a place they rarely went. Velo returned to Faísca. He looked at the dog, then at the sky, and then back toward the spot where Faísca had first appeared by the fire tree. Velo guided Faísca towards the spot. The raptor understood. This small creature was not of this world, and the world it came from was the only thing that could save it from the coming catastrophe. Velo was giving his friend a chance to escape extinction. Faísca hesitated, looking at Velo, his only protector. Velo nudged him hard, a final push of encouragement, then roared a final, deep, mournful sound of farewell. Faísca ran to the base of the fire tree. He dug furiously where the strange energy had first manifested. Just as the first meteorite fragments began to streak across the sky, igniting the jungle in a terrifying display, a small pocket of green, shimmering energy flickered open. Faísca didn't look back. He leapt. The world went white. The next moment, Faísca was back, not in the street, but in a dusty, abandoned warehouse on the edge of town. The familiar scent of garbage and gasoline was overwhelming, but comforting. The light was normal. The sounds were normal. He was scarred, slightly limping, but alive. On a discarded piece of fabric, Faísca lay down. As he rested, he nudged the ground beneath him with his nose, and then looked at his flank where the Utahraptor's claw had marked him. He was a survivor of the Cretaceous. He spent the next few months living near the same area, no longer just scavenging, but hunting. He retained the discipline of the Shadow Clan, the awareness of the wind, the silence of the apex predator. He had gained a deep, innate knowledge of threat assessment that no other stray possessed. One day, a young, lonely woman, an amateur paleontologist named Lena, found him. She saw the scarred, caramel-colored mutt, but was struck by his golden, knowing eyes that seemed to hold 10,000 lifetimes. She reached out, and Faísca, who had survived the T-Rex and fought alongside the raptor, offered his head for a gentle scratch. Lena named him Rook, for the shadow he casts. The final scene is quiet. Rook is curled up in a sunny apartment, finally safe. Lena is researching a theory about the cognitive abilities of dromaeosaurids. She smiles at her dog, who seems to always know when she needs comfort. She rests her hand on his head, noticing the faint, three-pronged scar. Rook, our Caramel Mutt, traveled through time, not just to survive, but to carry a piece of the age of giants back into the modern world. His loyalty, his fierce protection, his sheer will to live, these traits were not just street smarts, they were raptor-honed. He is the ultimate survivor, the bridge between epochs, and a testament to the bond of a loyal heart, even across millions of years. What an incredible journey! Did Velo make the ultimate sacrifice for his friend? Hit the like button and subscribe to From Streets to Hearts.
so you never miss a story that proves the strength of connection. And tell us in the comments, if you could meet Velo, what would you name his greatest surviving trait? Comment below.